1162. The Mongolian steppe, a vast grassland, stretching from the forests of Siberia in the north to the deserts of China in the south. A landscape of extreme temperatures, violent storms, and enormous distances. A place where survival is not guaranteed and weakness is not tolerated. Into this world a child is born to Xi, a minor Mongol chieftain, and his wife Holan. The child is named Temujin according to Mongol tradition. He is born clutching a blood clot in his right hand. Those present take it as a sign of what exactly, they are not certain. The Mongol world of the 12th century is fragmented and violent. There is no single Mongol nation. Instead, there are dozens of tribes and clans scattered across the steppe, constantly raiding each other, forming and breaking alliances, fighting over horses, pastureland, and women. Life is organized around the horse and the herd. Everything else follows from that. Temujin's father, Xi, is not a great Khan. He is a man of some standing in his clan, capable enough to have taken a wife from another tribe, which is how Holan came to be his wife. She was taken from a man of the Merkit tribe while Xi was traveling. This act of abduction will have consequences that stretch years into the future. When Temujin is around 9 years old, his father takes him on a journey to find a bride. On the Mongolian steppe, betrothals are arranged early. Xi finds a suitable family and betroths Temujin to a girl named Börte. He leaves his son with Börte's family according to custom, so that the two children can grow to know each other before the marriage. On his way home, Xi stops to eat with a group of Tatars. The Tatars are enemies of the Mongols, but hospitality on the steppe requires that a traveler be fed. The Tatars recognize Xi and poison his food. He dies before he reaches home. Temujin is 9 years old. His father is dead. His family consists of his mother Holan, several younger siblings, and 2 stepbrothers. They are alone on the steppe without the protection of a powerful man in the world. They inhabit this as an extremely dangerous situation. The clan his father led abandons them. They will not follow a child and a widow. The family is left to survive on their own, on the open steppe. Rest now. The steppe is dark and cold tonight. A boy of 9 is learning the first and hardest lesson of his world, that survival depends entirely on yourself. Good night. Good night. The family is alone on the steppe. No clan, no protection, no allies. Holan, Temujin's mother, holds them together through sheer determination. She forages for roots and berries. She teaches her children to fish. In the rivers, she does whatever is necessary to keep them alive through the brutal Mongolian winters. These years shape Temujin in ways that will define him for the rest of his life. He learns that loyalty cannot be assumed, that those who should protect you will abandon you when it becomes convenient, that survival requires constant vigilance, adaptability, and a willingness to do difficult things without hesitation. He also learns something about leadership from watching his mother Holan does not collapse under the weight of what has happened. She organizes, she makes decisions, she keeps the family moving forward, the capacity to function under extreme pressure. To lead when everything is against you is something Temujin absorbs from her directly. As Temujin grows older, tensions develop within the family itself. His two older stepbrothers, Börte and Börte, are sons of a different mother. There are disputes over food, over hunting catches, over authority on the steppe. These disputes are not trivial. Food is survival. The conflict with Börte escalates. Börte is older and physically stronger. He asserts dominance over the younger children and takes food that Temujin and his brother Kasa have caught. One day, Temujin and Kasa follow Börte onto the steppe and shoot him with arrows. They kill him. Holin is furious. She rebukes her sons in terms that make clear she understands the moral weight of what they have done. But she does not undo it. The act is done. Life on the steppe does not allow for extended grief or reflection. They move on. This episode tells us something uncomfortable about the man Temujin is becoming. He is not cruel for the sake of cruelty, but he is capable of lethal decisiveness when he believes a threat to his survival or his authority must be eliminated. This quality will follow him for the rest of his life. Shortly after, a raiding party from a rival tribe finds the family. They are looking for Temujin specifically, the son of Yesuge, a potential future threat. The family scatters into the forest. Temujin hides for several days. He is eventually captured. He is taken back to the camp of his captors and fitted with a kang, a wooden collar that restricts movement and marks him as a prisoner. He is a young teenager, alone among enemies, physically restrained and without any obvious means of escape. Rest now. The steppe is quiet. A young man in a wooden collar is watching and waiting. He is already learning that patience is as important as courage. Good night. Good night.
Temujin is a prisoner. He wears a kang around his neck, a heavy wooden collar that prevents him from sleeping comfortably, from moving freely, from doing almost anything without difficulty. He is passed between families in the camp, used for labor, watched carefully. He is not mistreated beyond the fact of his captivity, but he is not free. He watches everything he says little. He assesses the people around him, their routines, their relationships, their moments of inattention. This quality, the ability to observe carefully and wait for the right moment, will be one of the defining characteristics of his later generalship. An opportunity comes during a festival when the camp is distracted and the watching is less careful than usual. Temujin manages to strike his guard with the kang itself, using the wooden collar as a weapon, and runs. He hides in a river, submerged up to his nose in the cold water, only his face above the surface. A man named Sorkin Shira finds him there. Sorkin Shira is not his enemy. He has shown Temujin small kindnesses during the captivity. He sees the young man in the river and makes a decision. He does not raise the alarm. He tells Temujin to stay hidden and comes back later with a horse, food, and the means to remove the kang. This act of unexpected kindness from a stranger is something Temujin remembers when he later comes to power. Sorkin Shira and his family are sought out and rewarded. This pattern, remembering those who helped him and repaying them years or decades later, becomes a consistent feature of how Temujin operates. Loyalty given is loyalty returned. It is one of the reasons people choose to follow him. He makes his way back to his family. He is reunited with his mother and siblings. He is older now. harder, more certain of himself. The years of poverty and captivity have not broken him. They have clarified something in him, a sense of purpose, though he could not yet fully name what that purpose is. He begins to build slowly at first. He finds allies among young men of similar background, men without clans, without powerful fathers, without the protection of established tribal structures. These men are drawn to Temujin because he offers something rare on the steppe, a sense that following him might actually lead somewhere worth going. He also reconnects with an old friend of his father, a powerful chieftain named Togrul, leader of the Kari tribe. Togrul had a bond with Yesuke and accepts Temujin as something like a protege. This connection gives Temujin access to a level of power and protection he has not had since his father's death. Rest now. The steppe is wide and dark tonight. A young man's building something from almost nothing. It will take years, but he is patient. Good night. Good night.
Temujin has not forgotten Börte, the girl his father betrothed him to years ago. Before everything fell apart, he travels to her family and claims her as his wife. She comes. Willingly, by all accounts, the marriage is genuine. Not merely political, Börte will remain the principal wife throughout his life. The mother of his legitimate heirs, the woman whose counsel he values above others. As a wedding gift, Börte's family gives Temujin a fine black sable coat. It is a valuable thing on the steppe, worth real political capital. Temujin takes it directly to Togrul, his father's old ally, as an offering. Togrul accepts it and in return confirms his support. It is a small diplomatic transaction, but a revealing one. Temujin understands that relationships must be maintained with tangible gestures, not just words. The happiness of the marriage is short-lived. Less than a year after the wedding, a raiding party from the Merkid tribe attacks their camp in the night. The Merkids have not forgotten that Temujin's father once abducted Holan from one of their men. They have come for revenge. The raid is swift. Temujin and most of the men escape into the darkness on horseback. Börte does not escape in time. She is taken. For Temujin, this is not simply a personal loss. On the steppe, the abduction of a wife is a profound humiliation. It signals weakness. It invites further aggression from other tribes. He must respond or accept a diminished status he cannot afford. He calls on Togrul and on another ally, a childhood friend named Jamuka, with whom he has a close and complicated bond together. They assemble a force and ride against the Merkids. The attack is swift and overwhelming. The Merkid camp is destroyed. Börte is found and returned to Temujin. She is pregnant. When she is recovered, the child, a boy named Jochi, is born shortly after. Whether Jochi is Temujin's son or the son of a Merkid captor is a question that is never fully resolved. Temujin raises Jochi as his own and never publicly questions his paternity, but the uncertainty follows Jochi his entire life and creates tensions among Temujin's sons that will outlast their father. The campaign against the Merkids is Temujin's first significant military action.
It shows several things that will define his later generalship. The careful building of alliances before striking, the speed and decisiveness of the attack itself, the completeness of the response to an aggression against him. He is building a reputation on the steppe. Word travels: men who want to follow someone capable are beginning to find their way to his camp. Rest now, Börte is home. The fires are lit. The steppe is quiet for now. But Temujin's world is expanding, and with it, the scale of what is coming. Good night. Good night. Good night.
The years following the rescue of Börte are years of gradual and then accelerating growth. Temujin builds his following carefully. He attracts warriors with a combination of military success, generous sharing of plunder, and a system of loyalty that is different from anything the steppe has seen before. On the traditional Mongolian steppe, loyalty was to the clan, to the bloodline, to the tribe you were born into. Temujin breaks with this. He promotes men based on ability and demonstrated loyalty to him personally, not on their family connections. A man from a minor clan who fights well and proves his loyalty can rise to command thousands. A man from a noble family who betrays Temujin will be dealt with accordingly. This is a radical departure from steppe custom, and it draws men to him who would have no future in the traditional system. His friendship with Jamuka becomes strained and then breaks entirely. Jamuka is also a capable leader with his own following. The two men represent different visions of how the steppe should be organized. Jamuka represents the old aristocratic order, where birth determines rank. Temujin represents something new. The tension between them produces a series of conflicts over several years. At the Battle of Dalan Baljuk, Jamuka defeats Temujin decisively. It is one of the few military defeats of Temujin's career. He retreats and regroups. He does not collapse. He absorbs the lesson, adjusts, and continues building. This capacity to lose without being broken is as important as his ability to win. Tribe by tribe, the steppe is brought under his influence. Some tribes join willingly, attracted by his reputation and his system of rewards. Others resist and are defeated. Militarily, his treatment of defeated enemies follows a consistent pattern. Those who surrender before battle receive relatively generous terms. Those who resist and are defeated face much harsher consequences. This policy is both practical and deliberate. It makes surrender seem like the rational choice and reduces the cost of each subsequent campaign. The Tatars, who poisoned his father, are eventually defeated and dealt with severely. Personal history and strategic calculation align in this case. The Tatars are a powerful tribe whose continued independence is a threat. Their defeat removes that threat and settles an old account simultaneously. By the early years of the 13th century, Temujin controls more of the Mongolian steppe than any single leader in living memory. The tribes that once raided each other constantly are being forged, sometimes violently, into something new. A great assembly, a kurultai, is being planned. Something is about to be declared on the steppe that has never been declared before. Rest now. The fires of 1,000 camps burn across the steppe tonight. Something is gathering. Good night. 2026. The banks of the Onan River, the place where Temujin was born, a great kurultai is called, a gathering of all the tribes and clans that now acknowledge his authority. They come from across the steppe, thousands of warriors and their families a gathering, on a scale the Mongolian world has not seen. A great white standard with 9 tails is raised, the symbol of the new order. A shaman named Tengri declares that the eternal sky, the highest power in the Mongol spiritual world, has given dominion over all people of the felt tent, all the nomadic peoples of the steppe, to Temujin. Temujin is proclaimed Genghis Khan. The precise meaning of the title is debated by scholars. Universal ruler is the most common translation. Oceanic ruler is another. What is not debated is what it means in practice. He is now the supreme authority over all the Mongol tribes. Not a first among equals, not a coalition leader who can be overruled, the supreme leader. He is in his mid-40s. He has spent over 30 years fighting his way to this moment. From a starting point of almost nothing, a fatherless boy abandoned by his clan on the open steppe, now the ruler of the largest unified territory in the history of the Mongolian world. Immediately after the kurultai, he begins reorganizing the steppe on entirely new principles. The old tribal structures are dismantled. People are reassigned to new units of 10, 100, 1,000 and 10,000 warriors, regardless of their tribal origin. These units are the basis of both the military and the civilian administration. A man's identity is now defined by his unit, and his loyalty to Genghis Khan, not by the tribe he was born into. He establishes a legal code, the Yasa. Its full contents have not survived, but from what is known, it covers military discipline, the treatment of enemies, the protection of trade routes, religious tolerance, and the obligations of loyalty. Violation of the Yasa carries severe penalties within the framework. It establishes, however, there is a degree of order and predictability that the steppe has rarely known. He creates a personal guard, the Keshik, 10,000 elite warriors responsible for his protection and for maintaining order. At the highest level, entry into the Keshik is a mark of exceptional trust and status. The organization that emerges from the kurultai of 2026 is not a tribal confederation. It is something new, a state brutal in many of its methods, but coherent, organized, and capable of projecting force on a scale the world has not yet seen. Rest now. The white standard stands on the banks of the Onan River. The steppe is united for the first time. What comes next will change the world. Good night. Good night.
Before Genghis Khan turns his army outward, toward the rest of the world, it is worth pausing to understand what that army actually is, because the Mongol military machine is genuinely unlike anything that exists anywhere else in the world at this moment, and understanding it explains much of what follows. Every Mongol male is a soldier from childhood. He grows up on horseback, learns to shoot a bow from the saddle before he can reliably walk, and spends his life in conditions that build endurance, tolerance for cold and hunger, and the ability to navigate vast distances without landmarks. The steppe itself is a training ground that produces soldiers of extraordinary physical capability before any formal military training begins. The Mongol bow is a composite recurve bow made from layers of wood, horn, and sinew. Laminated together, it is shorter than the English longbow but far more powerful for its size, capable of penetrating armor at distances that contemporary armies cannot match. A Mongol archer can fire accurately from the saddle at full gallop. This combination of mobility and firepower has no equivalent in the armies of China, Central Asia, or Europe. The basic tactical approach is built around speed and deception. The feigned retreat is perhaps the most effective single tactic in the Mongol arsenal. A Mongol force engages the enemy and then appears to flee the enemy. Believing victory is at hand, breaks formation to pursue. The pursuing force is then hit from multiple directions by units that had been positioned in advance precisely for this moment. Armies that know this tactic is coming still find it extraordinarily difficult to resist the instinct to pursue. Intelligence and preparation are as important as the fighting itself. Before any major campaign, Mongol scouts and spies move through the target territory for months or years in advance. They identify routes, water sources, the location and strength of defenders, the political divisions that can be exploited. Genghis Khan does not attack blind. He attacks with more information about his enemy than his enemy has about him. The Mongols adapt rapidly to whatever they encounter. When they face walled cities which their traditional cavalry tactics cannot take, they recruit Chinese engineers who know how to build and operate siege equipment, catapults, battering rams, devices for undermining walls. Within a generation, the Mongol army is as capable of taking fortified cities as it is of destroying armies in the open field. The psychological dimension is deliberate and calculated. Cities that surrender without resistance are generally treated with relative moderation. Cities that resist and are taken by force face destruction on a scale designed to be remembered and repeated across the region. The goal is to make resistance seem irrational, to make surrender the obvious choice. It works with brutal efficiency. Rest now. The army is ready. The horses are rested, the bows are strung. The campaigns are about to begin. Good night. Good night. Genghis Khan looks south beyond the Gobi. Desert lie two powerful states, the Xi Xia kingdom in the northwest, ruled by the Tangut people, and the Jin dynasty in the north and east, ruling over much of what is today northern China. Both are wealthy, sophisticated, and militarily capable. Both are about to encounter something they have no framework for understanding. The Xi Xia are attacked first, beginning in 25 with raids and then escalating to full campaigns. The Xi Xia have walls, fortified cities, and a standing army. The Mongols do not yet have the siege technology to take walled cities efficiently, but they do not need to. They devastate the countryside, destroy the agricultural base, cut supply lines and wait. The Xi Xia submit and agree to pay tribute. They become a vassal state for now. The Jin dynasty is a different scale of challenge entirely. It rules over tens of millions of people, has a professional army of several 100,000 soldiers, and controls some of the most productive agricultural land in Asia. Its capital is heavily fortified. It has every reason to feel secure behind its walls and its numbers. Genghis Khan attacks the Jin in 1211. He does
not attempt to conquer the entire dynasty at once. He raids on a massive scale, testing defenses, learning the geography, identifying weaknesses. The Mongol cavalry moves through northern China in columns that appear and disappear faster than the Jin army can respond. Hundreds of towns and settlements are destroyed. The agricultural economy of northern China is systematically disrupted. The Jin attempt to use their walled cities as refuge and their professional army to counterattack. Neither works as expected. The Mongols simply bypass fortified positions. They cannot take quickly and continue raiding. When Jin armies come out to fight in the open field, they are destroyed. When they stay behind walls, they watch their countryside burn. By 1215, the Jin capital, the city of Zhongdu, today's Beijing, falls after a prolonged siege. The city is sacked. The destruction is enormous, a Chinese observer writing. Shortly after describes bones piled like mountains outside the walls. The Jin dynasty is not destroyed yet, but it is fatally weakened. It will survive another 2 decades before being finished off by Genghis Khan's successors. From the Jin campaigns, the Mongols gain something as valuable as territory. They absorb Chinese administrative expertise, engineering knowledge, and siege technology. Thousands of Chinese specialists, engineers, administrators, and craftsmen are incorporated into the Mongol system. The army that emerges from the Chinese campaigns is significantly more capable than the one that entered them. Rest now. Northern China is changed forever. Tonight, the Mongol army is learning and growing with every campaign. Good night.
While his generals consolidate the gains in northern China, Genghis Khan turns his attention west beyond the steppe and the deserts of Central Asia lies the Khwarezmian Empire, a powerful Islamic sultanate controlling the ancient cities of Samarkand, Bukhara, and urgent cities that sit at the heart of the Silk Road, the great network of trade, routes connecting China to the Mediterranean. Genghis Khan's initial intention toward the Khwarezmian Empire is not conquest. It is trade. The Silk Road represents enormous wealth, and the Mongols, newly unified and controlling the eastern end of the route, have every reason to want access to the western markets. In 1214, he sends a large trade caravan westward, 450 merchants, accompanied by Mongol envoys carrying a message to Shah Muhammad of Khwarezm proposing peaceful trade relations. The governor of the Khwarezmian border city of Otra makes a catastrophic decision. He accuses the merchants of being spies, seizes their goods, and has them executed, all 450 of them. When Genghis Khan sends a diplomatic mission demanding explanation and compensation, Shah Muhammad has the envoys killed as well. One account says their beards were burned off before they were executed. The precise details vary across sources, but the essential fact does not. The envoys are killed. A Mongolian steppe killing an ambassador is among the gravest possible violations of accepted conduct. Ambassadors are protected. Their persons are sacred. To kill them is not merely an insult. It is a declaration that normal rules do not apply. Genghis Khan understands it exactly that way. He prepares for war with the Khwarezmian Empire with characteristic thoroughness. Scouts are sent, intelligence is gathered, the routes through the mountains and deserts
of Central Asia are mapped. The size and disposition of Khwarezmian forces are assessed. Alliances that might complicate the campaign are dealt with in advance. He also takes something unusual for a military campaign of this era. He takes a historian, a Chinese scholar named Yelu Chukai, who will travel with the army, observe everything and record it. This is not vanity. It is an understanding that what is about to happen deserves documentation, that the record of it will serve future purposes. In 2029, the Mongol army moves west. It is one of the largest forces Genghis Khan has ever assembled. Estimates vary, but somewhere between 100,000 and 200,000 warriors cross into Khwarezmian territory. Shah Muhammad, who commands an army of similar or larger size, makes a decision that dooms him. Rather than concentrating his forces, he distributes them among his many fortified cities, believing the walls will hold. Rest now. The Silk Road cities are sleeping. Tonight, unaware of what is moving toward them across the desert. Good night. Good night.
"1219. The Mongol army crosses into Khwarezmian territory from multiple directions simultaneously. This is a signature of Genghis Khan's operational approach. Never one thrust that can be blocked. Always multiple axes of advance that force the defender to divide attention and resources. The city of Otra, where the merchants were killed, is besieged. Its governor, the man responsible for the original massacre, holds out for months. When the city finally falls, he is executed. According to some accounts, molten silver is poured into his eyes and ears. Whether this is historically accurate or later embellishment is debated. The message it conveys, that certain actions will bring total destruction, is consistent with Mongol practice. Bukhara is one of the great cities of the Islamic world, a center of scholarship, architecture, and trade. Its population is large, its walls are strong, and its defenders are numerous. When the Mongol army appears before its walls, the garrison makes a decision that proves fatal. They attempt a breakout. Rather than defending the walls, the breakout fails. The garrison is destroyed in the open field. The city surrenders. Genghis Khan rides into Bukhara. He enters the great mosque, which he is told is the house of God. He is reported to have said that if the people have sinned, God has sent him as punishment. Whether he said this or not, it captures something real about how he understood his own role in the world he had come to believe, or at least to present himself as believing, that his conquests were sanctioned by the eternal sky. Samarkand, the greatest city of Central Asia, falls next. Its population is enormous, its fortifications substantial, its garrison one of the largest in the empire. It surrenders after a brief defense. When it becomes clear that resistance is futile, the skilled craftsmen, engineers, and scholars of the city are identified and taken east to serve the Mongol state. The rest of the population faces varying fates depending on their usefulness and their degree of resistance. Shah Muhammad flees. Two Mongol generals, Jaib and Subutai, are sent with a flying column to pursue him. They chase him across Persia and into the Caspian Sea, where he dies on a small island, reportedly without enough cloth to wrap his body for burial. The man whose decision to kill the merchants
and envoys triggered, this catastrophe dies alone and powerless on a rock in the sea. The destruction across Khwarezm is on a scale that contemporary observers struggle to describe. Cities that have stood for centuries are reduced to rubble. Irrigation systems that support entire agricultural regions are destroyed. Some areas will not recover for generations. The human cost is enormous, and the historical sources, both Mongol and Islamic, do not minimize it. Rest now. The great cities of the Silk Road are changed forever tonight. The world is learning what it means to defy the Mongols. Good night. Good night.
With Khwarezm broken and Shah Muhammad dead, the Mongol army does not stop two of Genghis Khan's finest generals, Jabe and Subutai, continue westward with a reconnaissance force of around 20,000 warriors. What begins as a pursuit mission becomes one of the most extraordinary military expeditions in history. They ride through Persia, into the Caucasus Mountains, through Georgia and Armenia. They defeat a Georgian army that was considered one of the finest in the region. They push through the Caucasus passes and emerge onto the Pontic steppe north of the Black Sea. Here they encounter the Cumans, a Turkic people of the steppe who appeal to their neighbors, the Rus princes, for help against this unknown enemy from the east. A combined Cuman and Rus force of considerable size moves to meet Jabe and Subutai. The Mongols fall back, the Rus and Cumans pursue. Believing the enemy is retreating for 9 days, they pursue the Mongols across the steppe. Then at the Battle of the Kalka River in 1233, the Mongols turn. The pursuing force, stretched out and disorganized after days of rapid movement, is destroyed. Several Rus princes are captured there, executed by being placed under boards upon which the Mongol commanders then sit and feast, death without bloodshed, which Mongol custom requires for those of noble rank. Jabe and Subutai do not press further into Rus territory. They turn east and ride back to rejoin Genghis Khan. They have been away for 3 years and have ridden a circuit of thousands of kilometers through territory no Mongol army has ever seen. They return with information about the lands to the west that will prove invaluable to future campaigns. Meanwhile, Genghis Khan himself is consolidating control over the vast territories taken from Khwarezm. He does not attempt to administer everything directly. He works through local rulers who submit and agree to pay tribute and provide troops. Those who comply are left largely in place. Those who rebel are dealt with completely. Afghanistan is brought under control through a series of campaigns. The city of Merv, one of the largest cities in the world at the time, resists and is destroyed. The sources disagree on the scale of the casualties, but they agree that the destruction is total. Nishapur, where a Mongol general's son-in-law is killed during the siege, is taken and treated with particular severity. By 1222, the Mongol Empire stretches from the Pacific coast of China to the Caspian. See no empire in history has expanded this quickly across this much territory, and Genghis Khan is not finished. He is in his 60s now. By the standards of his world and his life, he is old. But there is one campaign remaining that he believes he must complete personally. Rest now. The empire is vast and quiet tonight. From China to Persia, the Mongol peace, such as it is, holds
Good night.
The raids of Jebe and Subutai into the Caucasus and the Pontic steppe are not the last time. Mongol forces reach toward Europe. They are a reconnaissance of first contact. The information brought back from that expedition sits in the minds of Mongol commanders for nearly 2 decades before it is acted upon at full scale. But before the great Western campaigns of the next generation, there are other raids, other probes, other extensions of Mongol power in directions that the sedentary civilizations of the West struggle to track or understand. The Mongols move faster than news of them travels. Cities learn of their approach, sometimes only when the army is already visible on the horizon. In Persia and Afghanistan, the consolidation continues. Local rulers who accepted Mongol suzerainty and paid their tribute are largely left in place. Those who test the limits are reminded of what testing the limits means. The pattern is consistent: submit and survive, resist and face consequences that are designed to be remembered. The psychological impact of the Mongol conquests on the Islamic world of this period is profound and lasting. The great cities of Central Asia, Bukhara, Samarkand, Merv, Urgench, were among the most sophisticated urban centers on earth. Their destruction or severe weakening represents a cultural and demographic catastrophe whose effects echo through the following centuries. Scholars, artists and craftsmen die or are displaced. Libraries are burned, irrigation systems collapse, populations that took generations to build are gone. At the same time, the Mongol Empire begins to function as a connective tissue across the Eurasian landmass. The Silk Road, which had been fragmented and dangerous under multiple competing powers, becomes safer. Within the Mongol sphere, merchants can travel from China to Persia under the protection of a single authority, the Pax Mongolic. The Mongol peace will eventually allow an unprecedented flow of goods, ideas, diseases, and people across the continent. European observers begin receiving reports of this power from the East. They are confused by what they hear. Some believe the Mongols might be Christians. Perhaps the legendary kingdom of Prester John come to help against Islam. The reality, when it arrives in Eastern Europe in 1421, is nothing like any legend. Mongol forces under Batu Khan and Subutai invade Poland and Hungary simultaneously. A Polish and German army is destroyed at the Battle of Legnica. A Hungarian army is destroyed at the Battle of Mohi. Nothing in Europe can stop them. They reach the Adriatic coast. Western Europe is within reach. Then they stop. News arrives from the east that the great Khan has died. The army withdraws to participate in the selection of a successor. Western Europe never knows how close it came. Rest now. The steppe wind blows westward. Tonight Europe sleeps, unaware of how close the world came to being something entirely different. Good night. Good night. It is easy to focus only on the destruction. The cities burned, the armies annihilated. The populations displaced or killed. These things are real and documented and cannot be minimized. But to understand Genghis Khan fully, it is also necessary to understand how he governed the vast territories he controlled. Because the governance is as distinctive as the conquest. Religious tolerance is one of the most consistent features of Mongol rule. Genghis Khan himself follows the traditional Mongol shamanist beliefs, but he is genuinely curious about other religions and genuinely indifferent to which faith his subjects practice. Christian priests, Muslim imams, Buddhist monks, and Confucian scholars all receive audiences with him. All are asked to explain their beliefs. All are granted freedom to practice. Clergy of all faiths are exempt from taxation. This is not spiritual generosity in the modern sense. It is practical. A ruler who does not threaten his subjects' faith faces less resistance from them. The Yasa, the legal code Genghis Khan creates a framework of rules that apply across the empire regardless of ethnicity or religion. Its provisions cover military conduct, trade, the treatment of ambassadors, and the obligations of loyalty. Violation is dealt with severely. But within the framework it establishes, there is a predictability that makes commerce and administration possible across vast distances. He creates a postal relay system, the Yam, that allows messages and officials to travel across the empire at speeds previously impossible. Relay stations are placed at regular intervals across the major routes. Fresh horses are always available. A message can travel from one end of the empire to the other in days, rather than weeks. This system becomes the communications infrastructure of the entire empire and is later copied by successor states. Meritocracy is a genuine principle in his administration. Men rise based on demonstrated ability and loyalty. Ethnic origin is largely irrelevant. Chinese administrators run portions of the empire. Persian scholars serve at court. Mongol warriors who perform poorly in command are replaced regardless of their family connections. This is revolutionary for its time, and it draws talent into the Mongol system from every culture it encounters. Trade is actively protected and encouraged. Merchants who travel under Mongol protection receive guarantees of safety that are enforced. The attack on the Khwarezmian trade caravan was not just an insult, it was a violation of this principle that Genghis Khan considered fundamental. Killing merchants disrupts the flow of goods and wealth that the empire depends on. It is both morally unacceptable in Mongol terms and economically irrational. None of this erases the destruction. The two things exist simultaneously. The same ruler who orders the annihilation of cities that resist also creates conditions under which trade, religious practice, and administrative competence flourish. History rarely offers us figures who are simply one thing. Rest now. The empire is administered tonight by 1,000 officials across a dozen cultures. Something unprecedented is being built in the ruins of what was destroyed. Good night. Good night. Behind the titles, the conquests, and the legend, there is a man. And like all men, he is more complicated than the image history has constructed around him. What do we actually know about Genghis Khan as a person, as distinct from Genghis Khan as a historical force? The primary source for his life is the secret history of the Mongols, written shortly after his death by authors unknown. It is a remarkable document, part history, part epic poetry, Part political mythology, it is not objective in the modern sense. But it preserves details and episodes that are purely propagandistic. Account would not bother to include arguments. With his wife, moments of doubt, expressions of grief, a portrait of a man, not just a symbol. His relationship with Börte endures throughout his life. She is his principal wife, the mother of his 4 legitimate sons, Jochi, Chagatai, Ogedei, and Tului. He takes other wives as is customary for a man of his status. Some of these marriages are political sealing alliances with conquered or allied peoples. But Börte's status is never challenged when he is on campaign. She administers his affairs at home. Her counsel is sought and valued. His friendships are few but deep and enduring. The relationship with Jamuga, the childhood friend who became his rival, is one of the most psychologically interesting in the secret history. When Jamuga is finally captured, after years of conflict, he is offered his life if he will submit. He refuses. He asks for a noble death without bloodshed. Genghis Khan grants it. The account suggests something more than the relationship between a victor and a defeated enemy, a genuine grief at the end of something that mattered. He is described as physically imposing, tall by the standards of his time, with a long beard and eyes described as green or grayish, which may reflect the mixed heritage of the Mongolian steppe populations. He is not a man who lives softly. He sleeps in a chur, the traditional Mongol felt tent, even when palaces are available. He eats the food of the steppe. He rides until late in his life. He has a superstitious side that coexists with his practical nature. He consults shamans. He pays attention to omens he believes genuinely, or acts as if he believes that the eternal sky has chosen him for his mission. This belief, whether sincere or strategic, gives him a confidence that those around him find compelling and occasionally terrifying. He is not a man given to mercy as an instinct. Betrayal is never forgiven. Those who deceive him face consequences that are final and complete. But loyalty is rewarded with a consistency that makes following him a rational choice even in dangerous circumstances. The man who helped him escape captivity as a teenager is found and rewarded decades later. He does not forget. Rest now. Behind the legend is a man of the steppe, complicated, capable of great loyalty and great violence, shaped by a childhood of loss and survival into something the world had not seen before and would not see again. Good night. Good night. Trun 22-6 Genghis Khan is in his 60s by any reasonable measure. He has achieved more than any ruler alive or in living memory. The empire he controls stretches from the Pacific to the Caspian. His sons and generals hold territory that no single man has ever commanded before he could rest. He does not rest. The Xi Xia kingdom, the first people he ever conquered, have been a source of frustration throughout his reign. They are nominally vassal subjects of the Mongol Empire. They pay tribute, but they have never fully complied. When called to provide troops for the Khwarezmian campaign, they refuse, their king reportedly sending a contemptuous message suggesting that if Genghis Khan was not strong enough to fight his own battles, he should not fight at all. This insult has been noted and set aside while other campaigns demanded attention. Now Genghis Khan turns his full attention to the Xi Xia. It will be his last campaign,
He leads it personally. During the campaign, something happens that the sources record but do not fully explain. He falls from his horse. The fall is serious. He is injured in ways that affect him for the remainder of the campaign. Some sources suggest internal injuries, others mention fever. He is advised to rest and let his generals finish the campaign. He refuses. He continues to direct operations from a litter when he can no longer ride. The Xi Xia kingdom is systematically destroyed, city by city, fortress by fortress. The capital Zongxing is besieged before it falls. Genghis Khan's condition deteriorates sharply. He knows he is dying. He does not panic. He does not make dramatic gestures. He calls his sons and senior commanders and gives them instructions for the future of the empire. He tells them how to complete the campaign against the Xi Xia. He tells them how to manage the succession. He is characteristically practical, even at the end. He asks that his death be kept secret until the Xi Xia campaign is complete. He does not want his enemies to know. He does not want the army to lose its focus, even dying. He's thinking about the operational situation. In August 1237, while the siege of Zongxing continues, Genghis Khan dies. The exact date is uncertain. The exact cause is uncertain. The sources offer several possibilities. His injuries from the fall, a fever and illness contracted during the campaign, the accumulated weight of a lifetime of campaigning in extreme conditions. Perhaps all of these together. The Xi Xia king surrenders shortly after. He is executed. The Xi Xia kingdom, which began Genghis Khan's military career and defied him to the end, ceases to exist. Rest now. The final campaign is over. The steppe is quiet. Something irreplaceable has gone out of the world. Good night. Good night.
August 127, Genghis Khan is dead. His body is carried back across the steppe toward Mongolia. According to his instructions, the death is kept secret for as long as possible. The army continues its operations. The empire continues to function. The man at its center is gone, but the machine he built keeps moving. The funeral procession travels for weeks across the vast distances of the empire. According to accounts written after the fact, everyone encountered along the route is killed to preserve the secrecy of the cortege and the location of the burial, whether this is literally true or an embellishment added. Later, to emphasize the sacred nature of the occasion, is impossible to determine. It is consistent with the importance placed on keeping the burial secret. He had instructed that his grave be unmarked. No monument, no mausoleum, no place that enemies or those who wished to disturb his rest could find. He was to be returned to the earth of the steppe that had made him without leaving a trace that could be located or desecrated.
The location of his grave has never been found. This is not for lack of trying. Mongol tradition held that disturbing the grave of a great Khan brought catastrophic consequences. This belief helped protect the site for centuries. In the modern era, archaeological surveys, satellite imaging, and ground-penetrating radar have been used to search the most likely areas of Mongolia. Nothing definitive has been found. The mystery is fitting in a way. A man who emerged from the steppe leaving almost no physical trace of his early life returns to it, leaving almost no physical trace of his death. The empire he built is the monument. The changed world is the grave marker. The cause of his death remains debated among historians. The fall from his horse during the Xi Xia campaign is the most widely accepted factor. Internal injuries from such a fall, combined with the physical toll of a lifetime of campaigning and the fever that several sources mention, form a plausible picture. Other theories have been proposed over the centuries, including assassination by the Xi Xia, a lightning strike, and various diseases. None of these alternatives has strong evidentiary support. What happens after his death follows the plan he laid out. His son, Ögedei, is confirmed as his successor to Kurultai in 129. The empire does not fragment immediately. The structure Genghis Khan built is strong enough to survive his death, and even to continue expanding for another generation. Under Ögedei, and then subsequent rulers, the Mongol Empire reaches its greatest extent. Korea is subjugated, Russia is conquered, Poland and Hungary are invaded, Persia is brought fully under control, China is eventually unified under Mongol rule under Kublai Khan. The empire that Genghis Khan started becomes the largest contiguous land empire in human history. Rest now. The steppe holds its secret tonight. Somewhere under the grass and the sky of Mongolia, a man who changed the world lies, unmarked and undisturbed. Good night. Good night.
Genghis Khan dies in 127. The empire he leaves behind is already the largest in history. But it is not yet at its greatest extent. The generation that follows him expands it further in every direction until it covers an area that no empire before or since has matched. Ögedei, the third son, is confirmed as Great Khan in 1229. He is chosen over his brothers, partly because Genghis Khan preferred him, and partly because he is seen as a unifying figure. Less aggressive in temperament than some of his siblings, capable of holding the fractious Mongol nobility together. He rules until 2031, and under him the empire reaches perhaps its most functional period. The Western campaigns under Batu Khan and the brilliant general Subutai bring Russia under Mongol control between 127 and 242. The Rus principalities are defeated one by one. Kiev, one of the great cities of medieval Europe, is destroyed. Poland and Hungary are invaded and their armies are destroyed. In battle, the Mongols reach the Adriatic coast. Then Ögedei dies, and the army turns back to participate in the succession. In China, the Jin dynasty, which Genghis Khan had fatally weakened, is finished off in 1234. The Southern Song dynasty, which had allied with the Mongols against the Jin, becomes the next target. It takes decades to conquer its naval defenses and river systems, presenting challenges that pure cavalry cannot overcome. It finally falls in 2039 under Kublai Khan, Genghis Khan's grandson, who becomes the first emperor of the Yuan dynasty and rules all of China. Kublai Khan's court in China becomes one of the most cosmopolitan in the world. Marco Polo, the Venetian traveler, visits and spends years there, his account introducing Europeans to the scale and sophistication of what the Mongols have built in the East. The China that Marco Polo describes as prosperous, ordered and connected to the wider world through trade routes,
that the Mongol peace has made safer than they have been in generations. But the empire is also beginning to show the strains of its own size. Communication across such vast distances is difficult even with the Yam relay system. The interests of the different branches of the dynasty begin to diverge. The Western Khanates, the Golden Horde in Russia, and the Ilkhanate in Persia become increasingly independent in practice, even while nominally acknowledging the authority of the Great Khan in Mongolia and later China. By the late 13th century, the unified empire of Genghis Khan has effectively become 4 separate khanates, each following its own political and cultural trajectory. Some of these successor states convert to Islam. Some adopt Chinese administrative practices. Some are absorbed by neighboring cultures. Over time, the great Mongol Empire fragments, not through military defeat, but through the centrifugal forces that affect all empires, that grow faster than they can be administered. Rest now. The empire is vast and changing. Tonight, what Genghis Khan built is becoming something new, in 4 directions at once. Good night. Good night.
Genghis Khan died nearly 800 years ago, and yet his name remains one of the most immediately recognized in the world. Not just in Mongolia, where he is a founding national hero whose face appears on currency, and whose name is given to the international airport in Ulaanbaatar, but everywhere that history is taught and discussed. What is his legacy? It is genuinely difficult to summarize because it contains things that pull in opposite directions and cannot be resolved into a single verdict. The destruction is the part that is easiest to state. The campaigns of Genghis Khan and his immediate successors killed an estimated 40 million people, though some estimates run higher. The population of Central Asia and Persia declined dramatically and did not recover for generations in some regions. Cities that had been centers of Islamic scholarship and culture for centuries were destroyed. The diversion of the Mongol armies away from Europe in 123 may have saved Western European civilization from a fate similar to that of the Rus principalities. These are facts. They are not disputed by serious historians. But the legacy contains other things as well. The Pax Mongolica, the period of relative stability across the Eurasian landmass under Mongol control, facilitated trade and cultural exchange on a scale the ancient world had not seen. The Silk Road under Mongol protection moved not just goods but ideas, technologies, and people between cultures that had previously had limited contact. Paper money, printing techniques, gunpowder, and other technologies moved westward. Astronomical knowledge and medical practices moved in both directions. The Black Death also moved along these routes. The plague that killed perhaps a third of Europe's population in the 14th century traveled westward along the Silk Road through the connected world the Mongols had created. The Pax Mongolica was, among other things, the infrastructure along which catastrophe traveled. This too is part of the legacy. In genetics, Genghis Khan's legacy is measurable in a way that almost no other historical figure can claim. A 2003 study identified a Y chromosome lineage carried by approximately 16 million men alive today, concentrated in the former territories of the Mongol Empire. The pattern is consistent with descent from a single individual living approximately 1,000 years ago in Mongolia. This study does not name Genghis Khan, but the timing, the geography, and the historical context
make him the overwhelmingly likely source. In Mongolia today, he is not a figure of historical ambivalence. He is the founder of the nation, the man who took a scattered collection of steppe tribes and made them a world power whose name was feared from China to Poland. The destruction his campaigns caused is acknowledged but contextualized within a framework of national pride that is understandable given Mongolia's subsequent history as a small nation between large and powerful neighbors. For the rest of the world, he remains a figure who defies simple categorization: conqueror, administrator, destroyer, connector. The man who killed millions and created the conditions for an unprecedented exchange of ideas across the world's largest continent. Temujin, born on the steppe in 162, to a minor chieftain who died when he was 9. Abandoned, captured, escaped, built from nothing the largest contiguous land empire in human history, died in 2000 and buried in an unmarked grave that has never been found. He was here. He changed things in ways that are still present in the world today. Sleep now. The story is complete. Good night. Good night.